Chapter 8. All Good Things. Nancy now realized her dreams with Max were not just dreams. As a result, she looked forward to sleep. Every moment of unconsciousness was also an opportunity to see Max. She went to bed early and even took naps during the day, hoping to see Max. As always, Max was unpredictable, but he was never away from Nancy for long. The more time Max spent in this dream world, the more mastery he had over it. He showed Nancy a world she could hardly believe, a world limited only by their ability to imagine. They went on picnics in Paris, saw living dinosaurs, and visited other worlds so alien Nancy could barely describe them. If Nancy could ask, Max could and would take her there. Nancy sometimes wished she could stay there with him forever, a world where Max was free from pain and the limits of his now broken body. A few weeks later, Nancy found herself back in the jazz club. This was not unusual, as this was the normal jumping-off point for adventures with Max. She found him sitting at their normal table, but this time he had a much more subdued expression.
"Nancy, I have to talk to you. It's important," Max said.
"Sure, Max, of course. What is it?"
Nancy answered. "I think this is going to be the last time I can visit you."
"What? Why?"
"It's getting super hard to reach anyone. I can't reach Mom, Jen, or Sarah. You're the last person I could reach from the mortal plane. I think my body is getting weaker, and as it does, my ability to reach you guys is fading. My mind belongs here now and not in your world. By tomorrow night, I will probably have lost the ability to reach you completely."
Nancy knew that they would not be able to continue like this forever, but she was not prepared to say goodbye to her friend yet.
"Max, isn't there something we can do? Isn't there some way we can convince you to come back to us?" she begged.
For the first time since his injury, Max seemed open to the possibility. He didn't shut down the conversation right away, and Nancy could tell he was considering his next words carefully.
"Nancy, there may be a way back for me, but it is by no means a sure thing. Plus, I can't do it alone. I'd need a lot of help. It's a lot to ask, and you shouldn't agree to it lightly."
Nancy responded,
"Max, if you're telling me there's a chance, any chance, I'll take it. I can hear it in your voice. You have a plan, don't you? Just tell me what you need from us."
With that, Max agreed to at least give Nancy the option, though he couldn't imagine why she would take it.
Max started. "Okay, you've noticed that we are connected somehow. At first, I thought it was just, how I feel about you. But it's more than that," Nancy asked. "How so, Max?" Max said, "It's a lot to explain. Let me try and start at the beginning. The night that you tried to hurt yourself, I left out an important detail because I didn't know if it was real or not. I was sleeping in my room, and a woman woke me. She was kind and beautiful, and she made me feel like everything was going to be okay somehow. She told me that you were in trouble. She showed me how to project and how to save you. She never told me anything else about herself, and I didn't see her again after that. Well, I didn't see her until I arrived here. She has been here with me at times." Max continued. "She has been teaching me about non-corporeal existence, the rules, the limits, and the endless possibilities. This place is actually a construct of my own mind inside of the dreamscape. The dreamscape is a non-corporeal realm. That is what allows me to show you anything I can imagine. That day in your room, when you saw an image of the first time I saw you, that's called mind walking. Entering the dreamscape with you is as easy and natural as breathing. And in the physical world, I know that mind walking with you will be just as easy now that I know how. That's why we have been able to maintain this connection, even though I am too weak to connect to anyone else. My friend told me that you and I are both different somehow. We are different than normal people, but not different in the same way. I know she doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes. She thinks she could teach you how to be an anchor for me, so that my mind can return to the physical world."
Nancy took a breath. This was a lot to take in.
"Who is this woman, Max?" Max replied honestly. "I really don't know who she is, but she is always kind to me. And when she is here with me, I don't feel so alone. I trust her, Nancy.
Nancy knew she would have to take this on faith. If Max trusted this woman, then so would she. After all, what choice did she really have?
Nancy said, "Okay, Max, so what happens next?" There is another bit of positive news. My friend believes that if we do this correctly, there will also be a chance to partially heal my body as a part of this process. Again, I am a little fuzzy on the details here, but I am sure she will fill you in. She will fill me in? Max, how am I going to talk to her? Well, like I said, I am too weak to reach you directly now, so she will visit you in the dreamscape sometime soon and tell you what you need to do. Nancy, it's a lot. And if you decide not to do it, or if it doesn't work, I'll understand, I promise. Max, there is nothing she can ask that could be too much if it gives me a chance to bring you home. Nancy, this could be the last time we ever see each other, so I was wondering if we might, I never got to, dance with a girl? If you don't want to, it's okay.
Nancy nodded with a mixture of excitement and relief. She didn't know exactly where Max was going with that request, and she wasn't sure of the limits of the dreamscape. It was a sweet request and a memory she knew she would cherish regardless of how things turned out. It was also the first time that Max had made any attempt to treat her like a girl. That was something she loved about Max. There were never any pressures or expectations. All she had to do was be there and be herself, and she could see how much joy that brought him. She didn't realize until now how much joy that brought her as well.
God, this has to work. It just has to, Nancy thought to herself. Then, Nancy decided to set aside such thoughts for the time being and focus on the dance. It still felt like the best thing she could do for Max.
Max selected a song, and then they approached each other. The two fell into a standing embrace and slowly began to move with the music. Nancy was amazed by the level of realism and detail in the dreamscape. She could feel Max's touch. She could hear the tap of their shoes as they moved across the dance floor. She could even smell his proximity to her. The smell was familiar and comforting. Nancy realized the dreamscape had no limits. Then she recognized the song that Max had selected. It was the theme song for an old television show he liked to watch. It was about a pair of star-crossed lovers from different worlds who couldn't really be together but were never really apart. As Nancy thought about it, she could see the parallels between that couple and her and Max. He had never shown any interest in her sexually or romantically, so she assumed his feelings were completely platonic. Now she was beginning to wonder just how long ago Max had noticed that she was a girl and what the extent of his feelings for her really were. The next song began, and those thoughts started fading away. She allowed herself to get lost in the moment as it might be their last. Nancy woke up the next morning with a torrent of emotions: happiness, exhilaration, grief, sadness, anxiety, and concern. She knew she had to go and see Max today at the hospital, just as she did every day since the attack. Only this time she didn't have the dreamscape to look forward to. She didn't know what she would do after that. All she could really do was wait and hope for the best. Nancy fell into a regular pattern: schoolwork, visit Max, uneventful night's sleep, schoolwork, visit Max, etc. She tried to keep herself occupied with the routine, to keep her thoughts positive and be patient and wait for her visitor. However, her patience was wearing thin as she did not know how much longer Max could hold out. His vital signs were getting weaker, and Janet was suggesting that it may be time to make the decision for him so that he doesn't suffer anymore. Nancy was horrified by that realization, but understood why Janet would feel that way. It was the only thing she could do for Max. Nancy, however, had other options, or at least she hoped she did. A few nights later, Nancy was awakened from her sleep by a piercing bright light. She got out of bed and walked to her window and was disappointed to realize it was only the moon. Nancy wondered how much longer she'd have to wait, hoping that Max would hang on for that long. Fortunately, her waiting had come to an end. Nancy noticed that she was no longer alone in the room. A woman with long black hair and an ethereal glow approached Nancy.
"Hello, child. Do not be afraid, as I could never harm you. I am here to help you save Max."
A smile radiated from Nancy's face, though it was tempered with a mix of curiosity. Despite the more obvious questions, the woman moved quickly to the topic at hand.
I know you have questions, and I promise there will be a day for answers, but that day is not today. For now, you must trust that I only want what's best for everyone involved, especially Max. I believe a great tragedy will befall all of you if Max is taken this soon, the woman said.
That answer only gave Nancy more questions, but those questions would have to wait for another time.
Okay, mystery woman, how do we begin? What do I need to do? Nancy asked.
The woman took a breath and studied Nancy for a moment, trying to decide if the young woman could truly handle the task in front of her, if she could truly grasp the level of commitment required. She hoped that Nancy was mature enough to see this through to the end.
I suppose now it doesn't matter. There's no one else, and there is no more time, she thought. She felt a moment of guilt and remorse, or at the very least, sympathy for this young girl. The fate of half a dozen worlds would soon be in her hands. She was strong enough, the woman thought. She has to be, for Max and for everyone.
Realizing that Nancy was still waiting for an answer, the woman spoke.
You and Max are different than almost everyone else you know. It's amazing that you managed to find each other. Some might even call it fate, or perhaps destiny. I don't know if I believe in such things, but I do believe that there's an opportunity in front of you. An opportunity to save Max if you are willing. You and Max have a special connection. I'm sure you felt it, being able to sense each other's emotions. It's subtle at first, then you can finish each other's sentences. It can progress to shared dream states. Nancy nodded in acknowledgement. My people call it the bonding. Until now, it was thought to be impossible in fleshborns. Fleshborns are what my people call mortals with flesh and blood bodies. On the astral plane, where I am from, we are not confined by such limitations. The bonding offers many gifts and abilities. In addition to what you've experienced already, limited shared consciousness, the bonding allows your minds to come together in times of great need to accomplish tasks that neither of you could individually. In short, the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. Nancy got it. So it's like networking computers. Our minds come together, and we can share the workload more efficiently. The woman was relieved. Exactly. And because you are external to Max's mind, you'll be able to reach directly into his subconscious, his operating system, as you would call it, and give his body specific instructions on how to repair his most critical injuries. Nancy said, So you are saying we can fix Max's body and he'll be able to walk again? The woman replied, Eventually, yes. You can tell his body to restore the connections, but it will still take some time.
Nancy nodded in acknowledgement but stopped the woman to ask a question.
This astral plane, is this where Max's mind would go if his body died? Would you be there with him to take care of him? The woman nodded. Yes, if Max does not survive his injuries, I will be with him on the astral plane. He will never be alone. Nancy said, I really think he would like that. He's been through so much in this life, and he has a chance to be at peace, to be happy. I don't want to be the selfish one to take that away from him.
The woman smiled broadly, and she was then bathed by a nearly blinding blue light. It was at that moment that she understood the depth of Nancy's feelings for Max. She was both grateful and relieved to know that if she could not be there with Max, there would be someone in the mortal world who would always be there for him.
Nancy said, So what's the deal when you go all, glowy? The woman laughed. Blue is the color of light bearers. When we are happy or experience a positive emotion, we have the reaction you witnessed. It is similar to your blushing, but much more intense.
She then answered Nancy's question in full.
Yes, if Max doesn't survive his injuries, his mind, his spirit, his soul, whatever works best for you to think of it, that part of Max freed from this mortal body would transcend into the astral plane. He'd be there with me forever, and part of me wants nothing more than for that to happen. But there's more to consider than that. There's you and your sisters and 6 billion other people on Earth that are at stake. Max doesn't know. He can't know. But there's something left for him to do in your world, And if Max doesn't complete his task, I don't know what's going to happen to any of us. But even setting aside all of that, Max loves you. And if there's any chance at all that he can stay here with you, he wants to try.
Nancy had a million questions, but the woman's last statement would become her first question.
Max loves me?
The woman was confused by Nancy's question.
Yes, of course he does. Surely you know that? Or is this one of those flesh-born cultural taboos because he is too young to be mated? The woman asked.
It was as if she was watching an episode of some nature show on National Geographic or something. Nancy shut down that line of questioning, but she herself was still very curious. She finally had to ask.
Nancy asked, "Who are you? And why is Max so important to you?"
The woman responded hesitantly.
"I told you he has a destiny."
Nancy was sure the woman was hiding something and let her know it.
"No, that is not it. I can feel it. You love him too."
The woman did not deny Nancy's claim. Instead, she shifted the conversation back to the task at hand.
"There will be a time and place for all the answers you seek. But for today, remember why we are here."
Nancy sighed and agreed.
Fine. Okay, so how do we do this mind merge thing and what happens then?
The woman smiled.
This isn't an episode of Star Trek. The bonding is a rare and sacred practice among my people. It is treated with the utmost respect. You should also know that when your mind comes together with Max's, and you complete the second level of the bonding, there is no going back. You will be a part of each other forever. The line between where Nancy ends and Max begins will be forever blurred.
Nancy looked the woman directly in the eyes.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean any disrespect. This is all new to me, and I am just trying to understand. I do take it seriously, and I understand the magnitude of what you are saying. This is a lifelong commitment to each other. But honestly, I feel like we have crossed that bridge already. I mean, when I thought he was going to die, I wanted to die with him. I cannot imagine my life without Max in it. If he is willing to try this, I certainly am. I just need to know what to do.
The woman spoke again with regret already in her voice.
I cannot answer this question, as I honestly don't have the answer. The bonding is different for everyone. I myself have never experienced it. All I can tell you for sure is that as a flesh-born like Max, you will need to make sure your physical body is as close to Max's body as possible. If you are successful in triggering the bonding, Max's mind will literally be in two places at once. That would normally drive a flesh-born insane. But luckily for us, Max is special. I will act as a tether for his mind here, and you will do the same for his mind in the physical world. He will basically be mind-walking with both of us at once. With those anchor points, Max should be able to restore the delicate balance that creates his extraordinary existence. Unfortunately, that's all I can tell you. The rest is up to you.
Before Nancy could protest, the woman was gone. Nancy was once again alone in her room and unsure if the entire encounter had been real or just a dream fueled by her subconscious desire to help Max at any cost. It was a Saturday, and Nancy was grateful not to have school that day. Her sister Jen was also home for the weekend, and Nancy welcomed the company. Jen was still a little shaken from everything that had happened. Jen greeted Nancy with a hug. The two of them had gotten a lot closer over the last few weeks. Jen's close call made Nancy realize how much her big sister meant to her, and Jen couldn't help but notice the changes in Nancy since Max had come into their lives. She was fiercely protective of her family, but she had a heart full of love and compassion, and with Max being around, she felt safe showing that side of herself. Jen asked Nancy how she was feeling this morning, which was just a nicer way of asking about Max's condition without harping on it.
I'm okay, Nancy said. Things with Max are not going so well. But I feel like we are heading towards a conclusion one way or another.
Jen was surprised at Nancy's attitude. She was expecting her sister to be more devastated by the news that Max may not make it. But instead, Nancy seemed determined and resolved. It worried Jen a little. She didn't want Nancy to get hurt any more than she already had. But Jen didn't know everything that Nancy knew. She wasn't aware of the woman in white, the dreamscape, and the astral plane. Nancy knew that regardless of what happened, Max wouldn't be alone. He would have her or the woman in white. She believed that he would be okay. As the day turned into evening, Nancy's thoughts turned once again to Max. She couldn't delay any longer. It was time to go to the hospital and face whatever lay ahead. The fate of their bond and Max's life rested in her hands. Nancy arrived at the hospital, and as usual, Janet was there. The two women hugged and exchanged greetings before Nancy's gaze turned to Max. Janet delivered the heartbreaking news.
He didn't have a great night last night, and it's becoming more common. His brain activity has been non-existent for several days. Nancy, I think it's time we let him go.
Nancy had been expecting this news for a while, but it still hit her hard. She wasn't emotionally prepared to say goodbye, to never see Max again or hear his voice. She just wasn't ready. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she stood there, and Janet silently held her hand. The two of them watched Max breathe and listened to the steady rhythms of the machines keeping him alive. Breaking the silence, Nancy shared her conversation with Max during one of the dreamscapes. She explained,
He said it's getting harder for him to reach out, and he probably won't be able to do it anymore. He mentioned knowing where he's going when he passes on, and he's happy, at peace. That was the last time I saw him.
Janet remained silent, but tightened her grip on Nancy's hand. Nancy continued,
I'm not scared for him. I'm scared for myself. I'm scared I'll go back to being the person I was before we met, the person who was afraid to feel anything. Max isn't big or strong or physically imposing, but he made me feel safe. He made me feel safe enough to feel things again. I'm afraid of what I'll become without him.
Now it was Janet's turn to confess, filled with sorrow and regret.
The strongest thing about that boy was his heart. He loved hard and strong. I don't think I could ever keep up or give him the affection he needed. That's not how I was raised. That's not how my family shows love. I tried so hard to make him more like us that I don't think I ever let him feel okay with being himself. Janet continued, We are not going to let him suffer like this. We are going to let him go tomorrow morning, Nancy. Let your family know. I've already said my goodbyes to Max's body. I talked to the nurses. Visit as much as you want. Stay here as long as you need. The machines will be shut off at 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Janet left the room, giving Nancy some alone time with Max. Nancy looked at her friend lying in the hospital bed. His face resembled the Max she knew, bringing her a small measure of comfort. She spoke to him, uncertain if he could hear, but finding solace in the act.
Nancy said, What are we going to do now, kid? How are we going to fix this? The lady in white says we can do it together, but I don't know how. If you could talk to me, you'd have the answer. You'd be silly and mushy and all touchy-feely, but it would work. And honestly, I'd be okay with the mushy stuff. You have a way of making me feel okay about the mushy stuff. That's why I'm not sure I can do this life without you. Everything makes more sense when I'm with you.
A nurse came by to check on Max and smiled at Nancy, saying,
It's great that you're here. He's always much happier when you visit.
Nancy gave the nurse a puzzled look, which the nurse recognized immediately. She explained,
I see his charts and the brain activity logs. His brain works extra hard when you're here. Just look at his face. You can tell he's a lot closer to being present when you're around. Trust me, I see the difference between when you're here and when you're not.
Nancy was surprised by this revelation. She hadn't realized that Max could truly hear her. It gave her hope and perhaps the answer she needed. Nancy said a quick goodbye to Max, promising to be back soon, and hurriedly called her mom, seeking urgent help. Nancy met her mom at a dress store and explained her plan to say goodbye to Max. Her mom found it odd, but was willing to support her and do whatever she could to help. They went dress shopping, did makeup, and had a hair appointment. It was a unique form of retail therapy, but it seemed to serve its purpose. They returned to the hospital around 9 p.m., even though visiting hours were over. Everyone on the floor knew Nancy and Sarah and allowed them through. However, Janet met them in the hallway, her voice filled with sorrow and regret. She apologized.
I'm sorry, child. I thought I could spare you this. I knew you'd be angry, but I didn't want you to see him like this, passing away. It will be hard on his body.
It took Nancy a moment to understand what was happening. She looked into Max's room and all the machines were gone. No ventilator, no breathing tubes. Only the heart monitor remained. Anger swelled within Nancy, realizing that Janet had promised not to do this until tomorrow, denying her the chance to say goodbye. She calmed herself before speaking, knowing she couldn't fight with Janet right now, or she might lose her last chance. Nancy spoke.
I know you're doing what you think is right for both of us. But now that I'm here, can I go and say goodbye to Max?
Janet, tears streaming down her face, nodded and turned away. Nancy stood at the doorway, collecting her thoughts and mustering the strength to make this moment count. She walked into the room with confidence, speaking to Max as if she was certain he could hear her.
Good evening, Max. You're looking so much better now without all those pesky machines.
Nancy glanced at Max's chest and noticed his breathing was labored, but the heart monitor remained steady. Machine or no machine, Max was fighting for his life, just as she had hoped.
Over the last few days, I've been thinking about all the things we aren't going to get to do together. Taking a picture with you for my senior prom, my graduation, and probably going off to college. But that's not the one that bothers me most. The one that bothers me most is your prom. Because yes, I would have dragged your sorry behind to it kicking and screaming if I needed to.
Nancy moved closer to Max's bed and removed her coat, revealing a beautiful new formal dress her mother had just picked out.
Nancy said, Mom and I picked this out for me to wear here tonight. I think this is the dress I would have picked to wear to your prom. I suspect we would have had a complicated relationship over the next few years, but it would have worked out in the end. I know we would have had a great time, and we would have finally gotten to dance. You're a great dancer, Max, just like in the dreamscape. Do you remember? Dancing in the dreamscape with me? I was surprised by how good you were at it. Had you been practicing in there? Nancy said, That first song you picked, it means something to you, doesn't it? I think it does. And you know what? It means something to me too now. Nancy sat next to Max's bed, leaned closer, and began to sing softly, tears shimmering in her eyes. The first time I loved forever was when you whispered my name. And I knew at once you loved me for the me of who I am.
Sarah stood at the doorway, recording the interaction for Nancy, understanding that this would be a memory Nancy would cherish. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to hold the phone steady, remaining silent not to disrupt the moment. She felt a mix of sadness for Max's passing and awe of her daughter's compassion and depth of heart. Most of all, she felt gratitude to Max for helping Nancy rediscover those qualities. Nancy finished her song, tears still in her eyes. She leaned closer to Max, whispering into his ear,
Max, I know life has been a struggle for you. I know you felt lost and alone most of the time, but that's not who you are anymore. That's not who we are together. Still, I know what the astral plane could mean for you, and I know you won't be alone there either. If that's where you'll find happiness, then go and don't look back. I'll find a way to join you there one day, I promise, because I can't imagine a life without you in it. So, watch for me in the jazz club and save another dance for me. I love you, Max.
With that, Nancy rested her head on his chest and let go. She didn't know what would happen next. She had said everything that needed to be said.